Hello, good afternoon, and welcome. Wonderful. Thank you very much for coming, first of all. My name is Mike George, and this is the final mindset of the day. So congratulations, you made it, if you haven't been to any others. And the purpose of these talks has been really just to try and condense some really powerful ideas into something that resonates with you. I think the subheadline is Short Talks, Big Ideas. And the idea is that ideas have the capacity to change your mindset. In other words, the way you think and the way you shape and set your mind. But in truth, it's not the ideas that you hear from here that does that. It's your recognition of what you hear from here that does that. And when you recognize something powerful, then the energy comes from inside out, not from outside in. And the energy that comes from outside in actually won't really change your mind. But when you realize something on the inside, then the energy that's released in your consciousness has the capacity to have you think different, feel different, and do your life differently. So I think you know that this particular session is all about the immune system. And I think we're all very familiar with the idea of the immune system of our body. But there's also an immune system which lives and exists within the soul, or our consciousness. And that's what I'd like to explore with you very briefly in this particular session. I think we're also all very aware that the immune system of your body is operating all the time at every single moment. It's operating right now. And its purpose is to keep your body in a healthy state. And so it's automatic. Whereas the immune system of consciousness, of the soul, has to be activated. And we have to activate that system every day. To do that, however, I need a number of insights to have occurred in my consciousness, in my awareness. And there are 4 insights that I have to hold in the background before I can consciously activate the immune system of the soul. And I'll share these 4 insights with you now, and some of you will recognize some of them, and some it'll be new. Insight number 1 is all about energy. And I think many of you are already aware, and if you're not, then the idea that there's 2 energies at play in life. 2 energies at play. 2 energies that make up life, basically. And intuitively we know what these energies are when we talk to each other. When we say, who am I? I'm a human being. I have a human form, and there's a being of consciousness. There is matter and mind, body and soul. And one energy is very physical. You can see it, touch it, cut it, burn it, drown it, eat it. Well, maybe I wouldn't recommend you eat it, but it's very visible. Whereas this energy here is very intangible, invisible, internal. You cannot see it. You cannot get it in a test tube. And what most of us have learned to do is learn to identify with which energy. Bit of a silly question, probably. We identify with the visible, with the surface, with the tangible. That's why whenever you look in a mirror, you give yourself a fright. Just for a moment. But we learn to live with the fright. But in reality, the truth is, and in a sense it's not a new idea, the energy of consciousness is what I am and what you are and what we are. So that's the first insight I just have to hold in the background. Insight number 2 is to do with pain. I'm sure many of you have heard the saying, pain is inevitable. It's compulsory, but suffering is optional. pain must happen at some stage to your physical body. And you will, of course, feel that pain because it transmits a sensation through a nervous system into your brain, and you pick up that moment of pain. And so someone will stub your toe, you'll get toothache. There will always be some moments of physical pain. But that's quite different from suffering. Suffering is always a choice. And the reason for that is suffering takes place at a mental and an emotional level. And each one of us is entirely 100% responsible for our thoughts and our feelings. And that's quite challenging for most of us because we are carrying a belief, the basic belief that runs the world. It's not me, it's them. But the insight I need to have is it's not them, it's always me. And in many ways, my life cannot begin until I have that insight very clearly integrated in my consciousness. And that's why pain and suffering are quite different, quite different. Someone can stab you in the leg and you will feel pain, but then you could spend the next 3 years suffering because of that one event. And you could meet that person 3 years later and say, I still remember you stabbed my leg. I'm never going to forget that. I'm so unhappy and upset. I'll never. And that means I've simply caused my own suffering every day for 3 years based on one physical event. Whereas another person, if you stab them in the leg, they'll say, no problem, that was an accident. They'll forget it in 2 minutes and they'll move on. Well, I'm being a little bit simplistic, but you get the meaning, don't you? So pain and suffering are quite different. The third insight is to do with disease. Disease happens in our physical bodies. And we're all quite familiar with many diseases now. We have the international global consultant who at 2 clicks we can find out the cause and the cures of just about every single disease known to human beings. And that consultant, as you know, is called Google. Yeah, it's Google. But that's different from dis-ease. Yeah, so there's physical disease, but then you suffer from moments of dis-ease. And every day there will be many moments of dis-ease. From one end of the spectrum, the occasional feeling of uneasiness, right down to the other end of the spectrum, absolute rage or terror or extreme stress. And all the way along the spectrum, every single day of all our lives, we'll have little moments of dis-ease. We don't notice them because we learn to live with them. And we also learn to believe that moments of dis-ease are natural. It's human nature to be upset, to be worried, to be angry, to be scared. And so those kinds of beliefs stop us from actually changing the nature, the intensity, the level of our moments of dis-ease. The fourth insight I need to hold in the background is to do with the cause of, well, at a physical level, we're pretty much aware that physical disease tends to be, mostly, not always, caused by something that we now know very well called a virus. And when a virus gets a foothold in our physical body, and most of them are there, when the immune system runs down, that's when they take over. And we start experiencing and naming and diagnosing some kind of physical disease. And in actual fact, even at home, you will spend a lot of money protecting your computer from viruses, because you know if a virus gets into a computer, it will cause mayhem within the systems of the computer. So in our consciousness, in the self, in the energy of the soul, which is me, which is you, we also absorb viruses. And the virus that causes all dis-ease in consciousness is called belief. Yeah. Belief is the virus of the soul. All moments of dis-ease is caused by the virus of belief that you are energizing within your consciousness. It took me a long time to see that. It took me a long time to work that out from my own experience. Probably I should say my own insperience. And I would recommend after this particular day is that, well, not to believe what I say, but to go away and say, is this true in my experience? In my experience. And that tends to be what we don't do too much. So by the time we finish this little session, I'll share with you the two main ways to do that. Now, with those 4 insights in the background, and at least understood, maybe not fully realized, but at least understood, we now come to the 3 mechanisms of the immune system itself. And the immune system has 3, well, mechanisms maybe not the right word, 3 movements. In the body, the immune system is a separate set of cells within the physical body. But the immune system of the soul is actually integrated and is consciousness itself, because nothing is separate in consciousness. And the 3 movements of your consciousness that you need to make every day to activate your spiritual immune system, if we call it that, are awareness, realization, and transformation. And awareness means aware that I am feeling some kind of dis-ease, which means being attentive and being aware of what my feelings are, which really means learning to read the emotions that I feel. And we feel many kinds of emotions every day. Realization means realizing, which really means seeing real with my real eye, the inner eye. Realizing with my real eye the cause and the cure of the dis-ease. And the cause is always a belief. Any moment of dis-ease that you feel will be caused by a belief that you're attached to either consciously or subconsciously. And the cure is always the realization of what is true. That's why, I don't know if you're aware, but maybe this is the 5th insight, is that belief is not the truth. Belief is not the truth. Belief, well, the truth about beliefs lies in the word belief itself. L-I-E. All beliefs are lies. And the reason for that is beliefs are static ideas that we attach to in our consciousness. And the truth is a dynamic process of awareness. And you are not a static being. You are a dynamic, creative energy called consciousness. And it's unnatural for you to grasp onto and hold onto and define yourself by any particular idea or concept. And we call those ideas and concepts beliefs. The 3rd movement of consciousness in the immune system is transformation. And that really means the changing of the form or the vibration of the energy of me, the soul, consciousness, the self. And that's the effect that the realization of truth has. Truth is not a philosophy. It's not someone's fixed point of view. Truth really means your true state, your true vibration. Or if I could use the word, your trueness. Being in your trueness, your truest state. And when you touch that state and you vibrate at that state, it transforms, it changes the form, the vibration, and dis-ease cannot exist in that vibration. Okay, so far so good? Are we all okay? I'll give you a summary at the end if it's not, because I'm slightly time conscious. Example. Let me give you an example of how the immune system works. Very simple. I'm driving down the road. I know my destination. I ask somebody, how do I get to that particular place? I asked somebody half an hour ago. And they told me a certain direction in which to travel. And I believed them. So I took their idea and I made it my belief. I go this way, not that way. But I'm driving along and I become aware, keyword awareness, that I'm feeling a little bit uneasy. I don't know why, can't put my finger on it, but that feeling is just arising. So I look into the feeling and I stay with the feeling. I don't suppress it, don't avoid it. I keep driving and I keep watching that feeling. And there's a moment comes when I realize, actually, the sun is shining inside the right-hand side of the car, and I know it should be shining in the left-hand side of the car. And I have the realization, not rocket science, guess what? I'm going in the wrong direction. I'm not moving in the true direction to take me to my destination. So I stop, turn the car around, I transform the direction at which I'm traveling, and the moment I do that, the feeling of dis-ease disappears. Get it? So, what was the problem? I just believed what I was told, got attached to the belief, and that's what ultimately caused my feeling of dis-ease. And the moment I realized that belief is not true, my energy, my feeling transforms, and the dis-ease disappears. So far, so good? So let's go a bit deeper. Let's go a little bit deeper. And let's imagine you're having an argument with someone. Do you ever argue with any? No. No, you don't do arguments, no? Yes? When you're arguing with someone, you're certainly feeling uneasy about something. True? Is that pretty accurate? So what are the emotions that you would be feeling as you argue with another person? Probably two emotions. One would be called anger, or irritation, same family, and the other would be called fear. So there'd be a mixture of the two. So I'm arguing with someone and I become conscious, I become aware that I'm feeling really uneasy here in this conversation. And so instead of suppressing it, avoiding it, going away from it, I carry on conversing, but I kind of stay with this feeling and I look into it. And as I look into it, either during the argument or afterwards in reflection, I notice sitting in behind the feeling of dis-ease, there's a belief. And actually, I notice the belief is causing my dis-ease. And the belief is, the other person is right. Don't think so. But thanks for the suggestion. In fact, I'd like to have an argument with you sometime, maybe. And so the belief is, I'm right and they're wrong. Yeah, and that's what's causing my dis-ease, because I'm angry that they don't agree with how right I am, and I'm fearful that this might carry on and that I can't convince them. So there's the belief, I'm right and they're wrong. Now what's the truth? If I stay with that belief and I look into it and I'm prepared to spend time noticing that this is the belief that's causing my peacelessness in this exchange, if I stay with it, I might realize the truth that sits behind. If I ask one person to describe that speaker here, they'll give me one description. If I ask another person to describe the speaker from there, they'll give me another description of the same item. Now, who is correct? Both are neither correct or wrong. They're neither right or wrong. It's just their point of view. It's their point of viewing at that moment. And that point of viewing will change instantly when they change their position. Get it? So no one's right or wrong. So there's the truth. Now there's the truth that changes lives, that changes energy, that changes your consciousness. In truth, no one is ever right or wrong. Now that's challenging, isn't it? Because what's the belief that's been programmed into you since you were knee-high to a grasshopper? I'm right and they're wrong. Mummy's right and I'm wrong. Daddy's right. And you get the idea? And so it's that belief that's causing my moments of dis-ease as I watch the news, as I read the paper, as I listen to the judgments of others, as I walk through my life. I've got this belief shaping the form of my consciousness. Transformation happens when I realize the truth. No one's right or wrong, it's just your point of view. Ah, that's interesting. And the moment I realize that is true, it changes, transforms the energy I give to the other person. And the energy suddenly stops being angry and fearful. It becomes accepting and appreciative. Get it? Do you see the sequence? Awareness, realization, transformation. Yeah. Now, there are different kinds of dis-ease which happen within our consciousness. Not just happen, but which we consciously and subconsciously create. And our challenge, every one of our challenge, including me for the rest of my life, is being able to identify the exact nature of the moments of dis-ease that I'm creating for me. Because no one else is doing it. That's the big one. It's me that's creating my own moments of unhappiness, peacelessness, anger, sorrow, sadness, suffering. They're all self-created. And so the challenge is, can I find out why? What is it within me that is causing? And how do I set myself free? And the two practices to do that are not new. They're ancient. You have probably, if you've been here before today, heard a little bit about them. One is meditation, and the other is contemplation. Meditation, in its simplest definition, is the cultivation of self-awareness. Simplest definition. Every time you sit and meditate, you make yourself actually not self-aware, but you become aware of what you're creating within yourself, what you're generating, your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, your attitude. And that's not something we've learned to do. And that's why this whole territory of self-awakening is kind of new to most of us. But for thousands of years, meditation, and I'm sure many of you meditate already, is and has been the method to become more aware of the beliefs that are shaping my energy, the emotions that are emerging, the feelings that I'm feeling at any given moment. And I need to awaken, refine, expand, deepen that awareness. Contemplation is a little bit like looking more deeply into specific experiences. And you tend to do that in retrospect. At the end of the day, I take 5 minutes and I contemplate, I reflect upon what happened today. I had an argument with Dave in the office. He kind of pressed my button. I got angry. Now, I know it wasn't Dave, and I know it was me. Now, why was it okay? I know that I got upset with Dave, I can see now, is because I believe that Dave should do what I want. In fact, I believe I can control Dave. There's the belief in my interaction with Dave that's causing me to get angry when Dave doesn't do what I want. Oh, got it now. So I'll meet Dave tomorrow. I see him every day. He's in the meeting. So tomorrow, I'm not going to try and control Dave's behavior, even in my own mind. I'll just let him be as he is. Don't lose my peace, and connect with Dave in such a way that we connect and don't disconnect. And this is contemplation. This is taking time out, switch off the TV, shut down the iPod, give myself personal time every day. Kind of, in my experience, doesn't really work if it's only once a year, once a week. It's really got to be kind of a little bit every day. But you find your own way to do that. You find your own way into meditation. You find your own way into contemplation. Everyone does.